It's like it doesn't have to be long.
Live streaming is
Just quick demos that people can show, and I think that will be shorter, and then also people will be more engaged.
Yeah, I agree with that. So first of all, welcome everyone. We just jumped right in today, but we're talking about how to plan these check-ins out in the future to be more entertaining for whoever's watching and following along with projects, with these cohort projects, especially as we're getting more cohorts underway. We're recruiting for the second cohort right now, and I do agree with that, Arki. So more demo based, more showing what's actually happening, right? There's two things I see which could be problematic there. For example, this week I had, I think, fairly nice visual demos over the last couple of weeks. Today I don't have one, right? Because the product's kind of like done. Well, the for the scope for the product, I set myself as done anyway. And I'm doing other things now which are not so easy to share visually. And then on the other hand too is what I would like to ask you guys all today too, before we get into the progress updates, is what are you guys stuck at? What's going on? What is the things which we are not naturally so inclined to just share as an achievement, and because we don't have, like, on our daily check-ins, what's the blocker or something, right? And a lot of times these things take much more time to talk through. Now, two things come to mind here. Yesterday night we talked briefly about, which correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve, but I think like one of your blockers is kind of still that audience, right? Like who's your target audience and how are you engaging with them?
Yeah.
And you said something along the lines that you spend a lot of time thinking, right? And I think we do that all in our projects, but instead of doing that, because what I hope for this Launchpad cohort to become and to instill is a solution for the basement problem, right? I call it the basement problem. If you just sit in your basement by yourself and think about your problem, you're only going to get so far, or not far at all. And of course, the idea here is that, like, let's just quickly talk about it, right? Or even just the rubber ducky effect. I think we brought it up in I don't remember which session, but you guys familiar with the rubber ducky effect? It's just like, I don't know where it exactly came from. I just got it told by one of my previous bosses. If you sit in your bathtub and you just talk out loud about a problem you're having, like even if it's to the rubber ducky in your bathtub, sometimes it'll just click, right? Like you just have to actually talk it out loud sometimes. And I'm sure you guys all have an experience off that form, like you're stuck on something or you're thinking about something and you start to talk to a friend about it and you're like, oh yeah, you're right. And they didn't even say anything. Right?
Yeah,
so I think I want to get more into that. And again, I know, Steve, you are kind of in that realm right now. I know Emmy can probably relate as well with, focusing on what there is to do, and there's just too much to do, and kind of breaking that down and what's the strategy, right? Like, so it's a lot. And I think we are all inclined to just kind of feeling like we have to come up with that first before we can present anything. But I think what this is supposed to be actually is the opposite. It's like, okay, anyone who runs into a problem, let's bring it up, right, and talk about it. So with that, if either one of you or Arki or Justin, you of course as well, have anything you wanted to talk to, let's take a couple of minutes today on the beginning of the call before we jump into anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I can. So, not entirely on my own, I came to the conclusion that I'm creating new things as a procrastination method to not have to do my work that I don't like so much. And it kind of sent me down a rabbit hole of like, how am I going to achieve my goals? I feel like I've done what is comfortable for me to do in terms of pushing and reaching out to people, and I'm just not really getting much of anywhere. So it's like I'm trying to give myself these like boost of serotonin or whatever by making something new and cool, and not necessarily focusing on what I need to do for the cohort.
Okay, so that was going to be my question. Is so it's procrastinating you from doing the other tasks needed to pursue your business plan, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
So I definitely don't have an easy answer, except something along the lines of, I think we spoke about it last cohort, like compounding interest. Like you just start doing one small thing today
Yeah.
that you don't want to do that could take 1 minute, and then just double it up the next day and continue on.
Yeah.
Trying to build it into a habit, and then maybe eventually it won't be something that you dread doing.
That's true.
As simple as I'm sure you probably already have a templated style response. Start with just one cold outreach, and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe connected to that, I guess one of the reasons why I kind of invented this thing that either I was busy or that whatever I was doing wasn't ready is because I think I'm not convinced now of that plan I came up with. So I've been sort of refusing to launch because I'm not convinced. And that's
What do you mean by plan? Which plan?
So going back, right? I came up with this idea of donations. That was a really dumb idea. It's like, why donations? From the very beginning, I wanted to see if I could monetize, and I just invented that idea that if people would donate, it's like, what does donation mean? It means nothing. It's like, if you want to sell it, just say it straight and sell it as a product, and that's it. End of story. But I kept just making it more complicated, and now I'm at the point that I thought it was a bad idea and that I'd rather just not do it, right? Or delay it. So, I mean, it's a tough one.
That's a very interesting situation, and actually very similar to Emmy's as well, I think. Completely different, but also the root is the same, I think. And we talked about it offline before, where I think you were at this crossroad. First of all, I think it's great. You learned what isn't working, right? Or what you think is not working. You have an assumption that is actually now not the right core assumption anymore. So that's good. Now you still set yourself that target for this cohort, and maybe in the future we give I don't know, opportunities to change that. I'm not sure, but like now I guess you have to ask yourself, can you still do it? And just like knowing that as soon as the cohort over, you will change the model from the donation model to straight up sales model, let's say, right? But can you still just say, I have 1 week. Let's see if there's anything, like it doesn't matter what I can do to get $5 in donations, or I think that's what it was, right? $5.
Right.
Like no matter what, right? Because and the fun side effect you'll have, because we're building out in public, is you will still generate some interest, right? Some publicity. I think all publicity is good publicity. So, I mean, hell, I'm pretty extreme as a person, right? Like you could even consider just saying, it's like, guys, this was a dumb idea, but I need to make it by the end of this week. Would anyone consider donating $1? Right? Like, now, are you proving your business model that donations would work? No, absolutely not. But you already decided to move away from it.
Right. Definitely interesting situation, right? And of course, I would have done things differently. Also, another big mistake was first to do the bot and then kind of do the campaign. I think it should have been the other way around, like some of you guys did. That worked great, right? Early feedback, you got traction, and now I'm at this point where nobody knows Umami bot, right? Because I haven't even mentioned this to anybody except for you and that random guy that walks into the CoStarting. But yeah, I mean, definitely it's a good learning experience.
So that's another thing I think too, which, and we're all experimenting still, but when we started, I had a hunch that I would not get pre-sales for that very reason. Ark, you just mentioned that we just won't get enough outreach in a month, right? A month is not much time. And without having a decent following in anything like on Twitter or wherever to tap into, that's hard. That takes time to build up. So I was just like, yeah, I'm not going to make that part of my launch criteria because I don't think I could achieve it. I still think I was just stupid lucky that I actually have a pre-sale now. So that, I think that's good learning, right? For these types of projects we're all launching right now is just, again, set your bar low, right? And maybe focus more on the product itself or your audience. And I think working on the bot first is totally fine. But now you're conflicted because you committed to product, but also sales kind of, or donations, right? And you don't know how to achieve both. And I think, Emmy, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you feel similar in a similar way, right?
Right. Well, I was going to say, I think it applies to me in the way that, like, I have this goal of collaborating with 3 people or whatever, and I didn't really flesh out what that means to collaborate, what I'm going to be asking for or giving to people. And so it's like maybe if you had thought through that plan of how you were going to get the donations at the very beginning, then that would have changed things. Because it would have for me if I was more clear on what I was trying to achieve with like reaching out to other makers and that kind of thing.
Steve, how do you feel today? Do you have any more clarity or still in the thinking hole?
I'm still thinking. Like I reached out to that one of the people who, had interest in like the integrations of Slack and Discord and whatnot, and I still haven't heard anything back. So I'm just still waiting around, trying to see what they say to my questions. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, all in all, I'm still excited about the idea and whatnot, and it's just I want to move quick, and I can't because I'm just sort of in this.
Why can't you?
I just feel like until I have a better idea of exactly who I'm going after, it'll be hard to just go after a random target. So right now I want to get that. I want to get that right, so I can get the positioning right before I start any other type of marketing ploys and whatnot. But I know that's not probably the best strategy. I should probably, keep the hustle going and pushing it as much as I can, just to trickle in as much interest as possible right now. But then again, there's a part of me that just wants to sit and get this one part right, and then I can move on. That's where I'm at right now in my head.
So, same crossroads I was talking about with Archidare, right? We're totally understandable from a business perspective, right? Like, and makes sense. Like, you wanna be sure about, at least the assumption of the target audience and the product you're building being a fit. But you also, of course, committed to a certain set of criteria with the goal. And now you have to ask yourself, kind of, are you going to just power through it to no matter what achieve that, and then maybe still change it? You might lose that first customer, which you're not trying to get, or not. Or of course, like it's totally legitimate to just say, it's like, okay, it's not as important to me to at all costs make my launch criteria, right? I think that's also totally fine. At potentially losing, the $100.
Yeah.
But if you should try to push, or regardless, at least accelerate how to find your target audience, and you find 5 different segments and reach out to 20 people each.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have 3 personas right now. And I've done a little bit cold outreach on LinkedIn. Nothing really came through. One guy might be interested. Actually, he signed up actually. So I might just be procrastinating on that end Um, I'm feeling overwhelmed by the different things that I want to accomplish with the cohort, and then my way, of doing things. I tend to take things really slow. So
That's
Right.
the problem that I'm having too.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, that's the general feeling I got as well. And we were talking, Emmy, earlier, and I said I just got lucky that I actually got done pretty much with like the work part of my project fairly quickly, right?
Mhm.
Now, but I also didn't even make it really part of my own criteria to prove that it's something the market wants.
Right.
Right. Now, not saying that's good advice by any means to build businesses, right? At all. And I think that's where for the cohort itself, we need to learn, or for future cohorts, what does the launch track really mean, right? Like this is like Justin was saying, to build habits, to just do something, right? It's unlikely that it's going to be every day. Every task you're working on is going to be perfect and making progress on that big picture you're trying to achieve. Beyond the cohort, I think it's more about just kicking your own butt and kicking each other's butts in this framework to just do something, right? Like that we kind of just don't allow each other to just think too long.
Yeah.
Because I think that's like obviously procrastination is the enemy of what is it? Progress, or I don't know if that's a saying, but it certainly is true. It certainly is true, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that, and then also the analysis paralysis, where you just overthink for the reason of you don't think you're right, as opposed to trying to delay, implement, or pulling the trigger, maybe.
Right. Yeah, that's the other question, right, Steve? Like, what's the minimum common denominator for your product, and can you launch that? And then just see how your different personas interact with it,
Right.
and then focus, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that I need to have a very light product to put out there, which would be completely way more easier than what I'm doing, because I could just filter people into that thing and have them try it out, and then that's. I mean, people. I definitely want to. I don't want to have a freemium model, but I definitely want to have something, a product-led growth strategy where you have that trial, just enough time for people to give you enough feedback as well, or to find the innovators who actually are into the thing, and then just have them go at it. Right now it's really hard, I think, for people to visualize what I'm doing, because it's sort of like every other social media scheduler, except it has to do with discussion-based communities. So I think that might be throwing people off, I think. But until I have something that people can put their hands on, it's going to be hard for me to pre-sell anything,
Right.
especially a product like this.
Yeah.
It's a little more involved, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think and it's funny, right? Because you're big. There's even a bigger picture beyond this, right? And I think at the beginning you sounded pretty thrilled to kind of have it boiled down to this, and turns out this is still even huge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with that. All right, let's dive into this more after the check-in, so we get through some of the meat we have in the hour of free streaming time here. And there is, excuse me, there's two more short topics I wanted to show. Do that as soon as I can share my screen. No, it's freezing. Is my screen shared?
Yes.
Okay. Start here. All right. So this, of course, we know. I did want to mention we already had this week our first virtual coffee meeting on Tuesdays at noon, and just go to meet.chit.si/virtual coffee meeting VCM. That's the URL. Maybe I'll put a QR code on this next time as well or something. But that is where you can find it. So this meeting from now on is for every cohort and every community member, really everyone who is interested just to participate in a conversation. There we will share, kind of what happened recently in our projects, but also discuss more generally, like we started today, what is CoStarting, why should you get involved, how can you get involved, what is there to it, what current cohorts are going on, and then just meet and greet across cohorts as well. So really anyone who is interested can just join Tuesdays at 12 Eastern Standard Time. And then this is a little heavy on the text, but I did want to throw out the next steps post this cohort, right? So since this was our very first cohort, I want to start having you guys think about what happens next. So we have one more week, then we're going to do a recap of what happened with our project and with this cohort. But then what would you guys want to do? And where do you go from here, right? So these are the 3 steps I just jotted down here before our call real quick. And it's like 3 of the tracks I can envision. Besides that, I am currently working on launch track cohort number 2. We already have 2 projects confirmed. We have 3 more open slots, by the way, 3 to 4. So if anyone is interested to participate in that, that's a possibility, generally speaking, to the community here. But then from anyone on this call, I think there is a possibility to either get into a higher track cohort, right? Like what's next? Did we achieve kind of MVP status? Do we have something which is now in the market? And where do we go from here? That's kind of, I think, Steve, where you actually spend some time on right now trying to do that MVP market fit, right? In theory beforehand. And so that's one, and this is just an example. I don't know what that secondary cohort would be exactly. We could work on that together. The other thing is to actually co-start your project. And I probably will do that with CoinDrop. I am probably going to open up CoinDrop for anyone to become a contributor and collaborator. That's of course the second pillar, kind of the second big pillar of co-starting, that companies are being built out in public. And with this cohort, I just kicked off an idea, but now I wanted to really open this up to the community for anyone to join. This would be an opportunity for any cohort project, I think, to do, or then turn this group we are in right now into a peer group with anyone who wants to continue and do the same things we are doing. Maybe also, continue to commit to similar requirements like the blogging and the tweeting and the live streaming, but without the facilitation. Now, I'm in that double role, at least that's how I kind of look at it myself right now, of being a participant, but also the facilitator in the cohort. And going forward, it would just be a peer group where you keep working on your project, you keep holding each other accountable, and hopefully get the value you are getting out of it right now continuously, right? And have that accountability. And I just put that in because I had a conversation or two with some of you offline about this. And I just kind of asked you if you saw any value in this. And, because I could see this being potentially one of the revenue streams for CoStarting. As this became a platform, if that was already there, all of these live streams, everything would be scheduled for you. You just commit to that peer group and it would happen automatically. Would that be something you would consider paying for, for example, $10 a month, right? So those are the 3 tracks. Any thoughts, comments on that from you guys?
So I guess the quick feedback for me is that I probably need some time, let's say once we conclude this, for me to really kind of feel it and decide what's the best course of action. But I think the 3 of them are reasonable, right? I think it caters to a different scenario. So I think it's good to know that there are plans, but for me, it's still too early to decide one or the other.
Even the peer group, you wouldn't be, you don't think you would benefit directly from just continuing on this project? Because I think one really large danger is to just say, okay, I need to take a break and think about this. And then again, you have that basement effect, right?
So the peer group would be interesting. Oh, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, yeah, it would be good to, for example, have access to the Slack channel. If you, by peer group, you mean, for example, that type of interaction, yes, I think that's valuable. I would be just curious to see how all these 4 or 5 projects evolve over time, right? I would like to track that. And I know I can go to Twitter and so on, but on the Slack channel, you get the direct interactions, which I find also interesting and useful.
Right. Yeah. And so ignore the payment aspect of the peer group, right? But I think in the simplest way, just continue exactly as we have, with less format, right? With less of this kind of with checking in the slides and stuff. More like not a mastermind. Yeah, kind of like just a group. This group continues to commit to working on it, and maybe you refine your criterias of what, like, I think there should still be some sort of goal, right? Because what I would love to do is, for example, Archie, I want to hold you accountable to keep working on it, right? And to keep improving it or keep pivoting on it, instead of just letting you go and think about what that cohort now did to you or to the project. No, keep doing something, right? Like, and
it's key as well is to determine, and now we're kind of run up against time here with only a week left, but I think that we need to commit to whether it's one of these tracks or something else before this comes to a conclusion, because exactly that's when 3 weeks will pass and it'll be like a lifetime, and very well if it was 3 weeks that nothing was worked on project wise, and then it's just going to fall to the wayside. So I think having something in place or committed to before the conclusion of the cohort is pretty key.
Right.
Yeah, I'll definitely fall off track if I don't have accountability.
Okay. Yeah. So like, I think I certainly want to commit to exploring that, and we have 2 more meetings where we can discuss this as well as offline, of course, on Slack. But yeah, let's explore and so generally think about what would work for you guys, right, individually, and if you wanted to. If not, it's fine, right? Like if you just say it's like, you know what, no, I hate the project now, I don't want to continue. But you could still potentially keep joining the peer group with something else, right? Maybe Archie, you join Emmy and start selling quilts. Who knows, right?
Right.
Or just come with a brand new idea and just start the cohort over again.
Yeah, that's true. That's a 4th track. Yeah, you could join the next the launch track too, or anyone could. Okay, so yeah, give me your feedback on this as we go. And then with the next cohort, I talked to some of you. I talked to some of the people I'm trying to, see if they wanted to join the next cohort. And with the money pool, some of the feedback I got was that it feels like if I put $100 into the money pool, that the people in the cohort might be rooting against me making it, right? And I think we talked about this in the very beginning, because of course, if you fail, the money gets split to the others. So there is that kind of negative feeling a little bit of, well, do they not really want me to succeed because they want the money rather, even though it's not much. So I decided, or I proposed for the next cohort to just not put it in a money pool, and rather look at it as a deposit, right? So you put $100 in. If you do what you said you will do, and you make the cohort requirements, you get it back. That's it. If you don't, you don't.
So I will say, I think part of the motivation, if you will, which is a double-edged sword, though, because you're kind of then rooting, in effect, for someone to fail. But it's like, okay, I want to make sure that no one is going to get my funds, almost, or my deposit. So that's kind of like the kicking motivation to continue pursuing a little bit. Obviously, it's nowhere near the primary factor. but it's almost like, okay, now everybody wants to continue to make sure that they do hit their launch criteria and goals, so that money is not distributed to anyone else on the team. I guess that's not really much of a difference of then it going into the cohort or CoStarting organization itself to continue along. So I guess it's sort of the same aspect. I don't know, just kind of thinking out loud here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Because that's what I thought at first. But then I got it a couple of times, that feedback that, it kind of feels like they would be rooting against me, which is really why it triggered for me to kind of propose that change.
Yeah, that would have never occurred to me, that it would feel like animosity because of the money. And
so I think that was one of the first that I had thought of, Sven, too, that I brought up to you, is, you might have people join that just wants to collect on people that fail, but that never even came across my mind that once we actually started, that was right the conversation that we had before this ever even came to fruition and we started. And probably sounds like everyone else here feels the same way. So, maybe that's just a negative that we thought was going to happen, but just isn't really going to be a concern.
So in my case, it really never crossed my mind that because I always saw this the money pool as a bet against myself, right? And this is the interesting part, that of course I care about it, but not because of the $100 that we put in for the first cohort, but because not getting it would be a sign of me failing the task that I sign up to do. So that's really the motivation. This is really not the monetary value, but it's just losing the bet against myself. And that's really what bothers me, right?
Yeah, I fully agree there. And I think it's a huge difference between saying, okay, in 30 days, I'm going to do this and not hitting it, or putting that bet, even with it being a small amount of $100 or whatever it may be. It has a much better mental impact, in my opinion.
Maybe maybe you could flip it, so maybe you offer everyone some type, I don't know, some type of learning, so they're not just like going in and just trying to launch something. They get something at the end either way. I mean, they're going to get the experience. Can they get like maybe some sort of ebook or something, or I don't know, something that keeps them in the game, some sort of way.
Yeah, I think you're getting that, right? Like, I think we are all getting that right now, actually. Yeah. It's not so easy to put in words like, hey, there's a free ebook at the end, but like, it's that peer group, right? I think it is that support. I think it is that accountability partnership with, between us five. I think that is what you're getting. And I mean, maybe it's even simpler. Maybe it's just like, okay, the cohort is $100, right? Like, my point in the beginning was, okay, like, I want this something to be free, but I also want people to be serious about it.
Right.
And $100 is not much. And pretty much all of you said, like, once you joined, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, it's out of my bank account now already. If I lose it, I lose it. It doesn't really matter, because I already decided to do this. But if there wasn't anything, then maybe, like, you have more willy-nilly kind of decisions, like, oh yeah, let me join this maybe, and then, a week in, I don't have any interest anymore. So it's that threshold of actually joining is why I thought some sort of monetary interaction would help.
Well, I do think that's key, because you're going to have a lot of people that are disinterested or drop right out if there's nothing to put on the line. But I see it too as with a deposit, a true deposit that's returned. It is free, because in my mind, this is free because I am going to hit my commitment, in my mind, again. So it's betting against myself, like Artie was saying. And I think that plays a much bigger role. And at least for me, that helps me along and make that decision at the beginning as well. There's a deposit, but this is free because I'm going to hit my criteria and get it back.
Right. Okay, cool.
That's the motivating factor as well. If that wasn't there, I mean, who knows? I might have even been here in week 2.
Right. Yeah, that helps. That helps. Thank you guys. Cool. Great. All right. Arki, do you want me to just leave the slides up, or do you want to share your screen?
Sure. Please go next, and I'll just talk over it. All right. So the goal for the week was to start the campaign, and I didn't. I think we already covered that part earlier, the reasons why I didn't. But I think on the flip side, I improved the thing, meaning that I set up these donations. Although it says GoFundMe, I already changed it to PayPal, because GoFundMe just shut down my campaign because apparently you're not allowed to request donations to sponsor your pet projects. So anyway, that's PayPal. And the web subscriptions were a key piece. And that's one of the reasons why it was okay for me to have this delay. Just expecting the users to sign up through a post on Instagram and tagging, it was just too complicated. The simplest is a web subscription. Fortunately, the Wix platform that I'm using supports forms, and I get an email. So now I get signups via the web. That's the best way. And I think really for this week, since I don't have any time left, is to launch and just do it, get it done. And I'm not going to ask people to donate. It will be there in case anyone randomly clicks, but I already decided that donations are not a good thing, and I'm not going to actively ask for it. So I just want to see if I get signups, and I'll be happy with that. And to me, perhaps I don't fit the criteria, but I think just getting signups would be the signal that I was looking for, and I'll be happy with that. So I guess going to the KPIs, just briefly, nothing much has changed. I think the real test will come in the last one. Thanks.
Okay. Did we want to talk anything about Taki's project before we jump to the next one?
I just want to ask, can you elaborate a bit more on the GoFundMe and what happened there? I know that you wrote in Slack about it, but
yeah,
what was the deciding factor?
Sure. So I didn't have an account, so I opened one up. They had a category when you create a campaign, you can choose entrepreneurs and small businesses, something like that. So I tagged it like that, and in the description, I made the request that a donation will get you a year of free recommendations on recipes, and that the money was going to be spent in the cloud infrastructure, right? Meaning paying for the Amazon account or whatever I was going to use. And then within the 24 hours, I got an email just canceling it, linking, they provide a URL to the terms and conditions and saying that I violated them. I read through them. Just I couldn't really find the real reason there, like a list of 20 or so. And I just didn't want, I'm not going to email them. I just shut down the campaign and canceled it, and I put the link.
Oh, you're not going to try to appeal it and continue with them?
No, I'm not going to continue with them. I'm going via PayPal. So just using the Cohort's money pool.
So this is interesting, right? If anyone who is watching this video has any experience about that, I would love to understand the difference too, because I think a lot of people on primarily YouTubers or something, right, like are using GoFundMe. Oh, sorry, no, I'm thinking Patreon. Haha, right. There's the difference. I think that's right. GoFundMe is more for like,
yeah, charity or benefiting someone, right? Like altruistic stuff. Yeah, right. And that was probably a bad call from my side. I consider Patreon, but that's a subscription based. That's what I understood. So I didn't expect these guys to really sign up, but I was hoping for a donation, right? Like one-time thing to like a token to say here, okay, we like it. That's it, right? But again, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, having an entrepreneur category too. That's surprising. Then that.
Yeah. Right. It's anyway. I will not dig further. It is what it is, and I'm happy with PayPal.
Okay, great. Do you want to keep sharing? So?
Yeah, if you don't need to share anything on your side.
I will share my screen, but I can wait until the end.
Okay.
All right, next slide. A quick update here. Biggest update of the week. I did want to get much further along, but unfortunately I got caught up in the craze that is GameStop and investing on Monday morning, and essentially just staring at the stock nonstop until 36 minutes ago when this call started. So I'm still in it for the long haul, and we'll see what next week brings. I am up 400%, but was hoping for much more than that. But fingers crossed that it sustains that, and hopefully, maybe 10x or more. But with that, still chipped away at some work here. The biggest achievement, I think it was last week that I mentioned that I can't use JavaScript libraries in Zojo applications. It turns out I did find a workaround, and I call it a hack because that's really what it is. You're just loading it into an HTML viewer control and then loading it in the application. So it's not the most elegant implementation, but it works. And the reason for that was to add in charting, which I thought was something that wouldn't be allowed to be or wouldn't have been able to include here with V1. But luckily with this workaround now we'll be able to. So with that, for last week's plan, I did complete the minimum required fields for the basic portfolio tracking, completed the rest of the required minimum requirements for creating a Mac application, and then added in the basic charting, which we'll demo in just a moment. Next week's plan still need to implement the bare minimum for options trading calculations, which has been proving to be much more difficult than expected, even so 3 weeks later. Then finish buttoning up the overall interface, and then creating the copy for the website and or App Store listing if I choose to list in the Mac App Store. And then finally, I just discovered this in the last few hours that I'll need to more likely switch APIs for the stock market data, as the current one that I'm using does not support pre and after market data, which is obviously pretty critical. And then also it's very limited chart wise. You can't do a 1 day chart, which is pretty much the default that everybody wants to see. So I'm back to the drawing board to do research there to find something that's quite economical and or hopefully free, at least for the remainder of building it out and testing. Next slide. And for KPIs added in here because we brought it up last week, Twitter impressions. So far, cohort to date is 2,205, which is up 31,400%, which I thought I'd include. And that's only because I've had an account for 10 years and never used it. And then unique users to the blog is surprisingly up as well, from 6 to 17 for the past week. And now I'll just do a very brief demo of what has been new in the application. And let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so here is the slightly updated user interface to where we can click in, get this. All this is pulled from the API, and along with the account, which will now link you to the login page of wherever your brokerage is. Just some small additions, like the font for pricing is changed to fixed size, and then it'll be green or red depending on what the close was for the previous day, or rather what the open was for the current day. And then just, again, very basic portfolio tracking for your shares and its current value based on current price. And then digging into further detail here, such as your volume, market cap, etc. And then historical data added in just to look at from, actually this only goes back 5 years. Oh no, it does go back further. But that's another limitation of the APIs. I believe it's supposed to only go back 5 years, but this is clearly going back further. But this is your close for each day. And then basic charting here, where it'll pull in, and this is just all, so you can see this is GameStop itself, so you can see what's going on here, the excitement.
Big fan.
And then you can change between for the past month, past year, etc., and alternate between. And that's about it.
So this is like your moment, right? You realize that, just knocking off Robinhood and Webull off their throne here. Like, you just got to be quick, Justin.
I know. I got to get launched out the door.
Honestly, like, I would not be surprised if you can get that somehow in the Wall Street Bets Reddit. Like, you will get downloads, like, almost for sure.
Well, one of the problems too is they went from 1.7 million to, I think it's like 3.5 million users since Friday. So, I mean, a massive influx. And if you sort by new submissions, it's just out of control. A lot of it's spam, a lot of it's bots. And now I think it's going to be very hard to weed through all of that and actually get some eyeballs on it.
Well, that's easy too, right? So your distribution strategy for this app is going to be to partner with some of the people on this Reddit with much more karma than you, and you just cut them in.
Yeah, I definitely have to shore up a lot more in the application before I even want to demo it to anyone to make it truly worthwhile. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good thought to have.
I think a good thing would be that on the accounts, right? Hopefully you have several, if you have in those providers, right? So that if one is blocking you from buying that stock, you can click on the next and get quickly there.
Oh, yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah.
Actually, write that down.
All right, let's move ahead. Steve, do you want to share yourself, or do you want me to? You are muted.
You can, sorry.
And I think looking at the time, we probably have 10 minutes left, right?
We have 15.
Okay.
Yep. But yes, good call. Yeah, sorry, I was hogging, I guess, a little bit in the beginning there with general co-starting questions. Sharing my screen takes forever. I don't know why. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Oh. All right. Big achievement this week. I was happy with it. It was a product hunt launch. It was pretty interesting to do. Never done it. I definitely closed the gap on my early signups. I'm at 14 right now. I'm gonna try to close that by midweek. I want to try to close that by mid or late next week at 20. So that product hunt definitely helped, but I did a lot of other things. I set up a whole automated Twitter campaign throughout the day to go out. So that probably helped a little bit. And then I reached out. I sent out an email to my community. Actually, I'm sure that trickled in a few users. I'm definitely failing at trying to get my clickable design of some sort. So I'm gonna try to push. I'm definitely pushing hard on that this week. So yeah, I mean, next week, I'm going hard on to at least hit my my early sign up goal. And I definitely want to demonstrate something of a working design, or even a very light first version. And I might take Sven's advice here and just push some family and friends onto this, and just to buy it, just to hit that mark, even though it won't really count. Yeah, and my blog post, I wrote about exactly what I did, pre-launch, product hunt launch. It was pretty interesting. I really haven't shared that though. It was only on my blog. I'm all set there. You can go to the next slide. So yeah, I mean, my article views didn't change. I had a good engagement with someone talking about, once again, Slack and Discord integrations. I even had someone ask for Telegram and WhatsApp, which was interesting. I never even thought about that. Telegram's becoming like definitely a new platform for community. So I might have to look into that as well. And then my early signups obviously went up, and my KPI for my pre-sales is down. So at this point, I'm pushing hard on closing the gap on my early signups, getting a clickable design to put out there, get people touching the product, and then try to hack some sales into that as well by the end of next week.
What was your early signups target?
2.
Oh, wow. All right. So you're really good there.
Yeah. Oh, wait, no. Early signups, 20.
Okay. All right. Still pretty good. I mean, if you
Yeah.
continue on that trend, you should be fine there for sure.
Do you know what type of engagement you got from Product Hunt after launching?
Oh, let me see here.
Yeah, you were what, 25?
Yeah, I was actually it finished at 25. Let me see if I can plug my data in here. Oh, shit.
Maybe we'll just move on to the other two, so we can. By the time we're done, you can.
If you go back to my big achievement, I put the data right there.
Oh, it probably doesn't show because it's shared. Ah, there we go. Cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Very interesting. I'll take 25 all day on not having a product.
On the concept, yeah. No, this is great. Congrats. Alrighty, Emmy. What's up with the garments?
Okay, so besides what I already talked about, some cool stuff. I have a call tomorrow with a company in St. Louis who redirects textiles from being sent to landfills, and they want to put my products on their website, and they also the founder has this idea to make dog beds stuffed with like fabric scraps and socks and other like textiles that aren't necessarily desirable for clothing and such, but would make like stuffing for a dog bed. So I think we're going to talk about working on a prototype for that. So that's exciting. I did a lot of, well, I did a I did a little bit of outreach. I kind of am having this strategy of like finding the people and engaging with their content, and then like hoping that it sparks an organic kind of communication, and then leading to something. But I'm running out of time, so I might have to start pushing harder on that. But I did get I made this whole spreadsheet of other upcycled makers, and I have their emails and their Instagrams. So hopefully this next week I can push to get those other collaborations. I do have one other situation that may or may not be a collaboration, but we'll say it's not. Content creation is good. I have heard that my videos are getting good, so that's good to hear. Yeah, I think we can go on to the next slide. My KPIs. That's really not much has changed. Nothing at all. Yeah, we can move on from there. This is hilarious. So this is my mood for the week. I wish I had the confidence of this woman trying to sell a cheese grater as an earring rack on Etsy. Okay, you can move on from that.
So obviously you already was mean to her, but like you should reach out, collaborate. Who knows? Maybe she's making like big bucks with this strategy.
Cheese grater. Oh, I love it. It's not bad. I mean, sure, why not? But it's just kind of silly. My creations, my favorite part, even though it's not what I should be focusing on. We have this cashmere cape that I'm currently modeling. That was fun. Some patchwork stuff. The patchwork bags are actually kind of an interesting story. I'll make it quick. I thought I was going to make my first quilt, and precision is not my strong suit, and measuring and cutting, so the squares were way too uneven. So I had like this big piece of fabric to turn into something. I didn't want to waste time quilting it when I knew it was going to turn out super wonky. So I made it into those bags, and I think they're actually really cute. Yeah, we can move on from there. Collaboration strategy.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
I don't even know what I was gonna say there. No, I think I mostly said it already on the first slide, so that's fine. And then there's my coupon code again. Bags in the shop if you want to get the coupon code.
So just curious,
10% off.
Obviously you've been procrastinating by working on new designs. How long does, obviously they're all different sizes and that, but like the one you're wearing, how long did that take?
Oh my gosh, this one took me two to 3 days, but that's from ideation. Like, it started out as a vintage robe, so I cut it down to just squares of fabric, look at it, figure out a pattern that's going to work to become something new, and then the process of cutting and sewing and the whole nine. So it's a pretty good amount of procrastination that can be done with something like that.
Okay, very cool.
I think you should make a his and hers cape. like how Sherlock Holmes has his thing.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
That's fun.
Maybe that's the genre to try to get into.
Capes.
Victorian detective wear.
That means that you and your husband is going to have to be wearing them 24/7.
I mean, that's timeless, right? That always works.
Yeah. I can't think of a scenario where a cape wouldn't be appropriate attire.
Pair that with like a kilt, and you're good to go. All right. Anything else? Any other feedback? No? All right. Okay, so I'll squeeze in my update in the last couple minutes here before we get cut off. Whoa, why does this not show the latest version? Oh, okay. There is the latest version. I sold something. So very surprisingly, we already talked about it on Tuesday's brainstorming call, where my first customer was actually on the call. So if you haven't seen that, go back to that and watch it. And as you see in the second bullet point here, his name's Kyle, and his Bitcoin address to be is send Kyle crypto. I think he was slightly influenced by my example I used, which was send me money on the pre-sale page. But hey, good for him. He got the address he wanted, and I said I kind of sold something because it's a pre-sale, so he committed to buying it when it goes live. So technically, I don't have the money yet, but still extremely, extremely hyped about that. I did not in 100 years expect that, and that was actually only one day after the pre-sale website went live. I said that wrong on Tuesday's call. I thought it was already live 3 days, because I think Justin, you said it the other day. It feels like time flies if you're working on something continuously like this. Mm-hmm. I also had a fantastic call with Chris Cunningham, which is a founding member and I want to say VP. I'm gonna butcher it. So he's a founding member at ClickUp, and super stoked to hear that people at ClickUp were talking about the co-starting methodology as a whole, and they really understood what we were trying to do here in bigger picture, not just with this cohort. So stoked about that. He has agreed to kind of stay in touch and give feedback over time and see if there's any way to work together with ClickUp. My upcoming week is launching. So the website's up. Now I want to do what Steve already did and had some success with, and get this stuff on some communities and see if I can get some more feedback. And I alluded to it. I think I will start to prepare CoinDrop to become the first co-startup. There's a lot to do for that. I don't really know how to do that quite yet. How do I facilitate open collaboration on this project? But if anyone wants to, if anyone thinks this is interesting and wants to become a part of it, reach out. Let's figure it out together. My KPIs are looking all right-ish. I added the CoinDrop website analytics. I had 11 users since it's up, so I guess that's all right. And I also added retweets. I had a couple of retweets this week, which is kind of cool. And I had a pre-sale. Like I said, that's kind of what I'm focusing on. That's why I'm excited this week. The rest of the, all of the other KPIs are not really rallying too much yet. There's certainly no game stock action going on there. And I think that is all from my side. I don't have a demo this week either, because I already launched it. Like I said, there is not anything visual to show. Hopefully by next week. And we'll talk about it, by the way, if we get